September 1939. The world, still feeling the pain of the Great War only 20 years prior, once again plunged itself into another, more devastating and destructive global conflict known as the Second World War. In a period of less than 10 years, dozens of nations across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Pacific Ocean fought in the deadliest war in human history, losing between an estimated 50 to 80 million people in the process. Understand that the war did not begin over one single event, nor was it a team effort, as schools try to so narrowly boil it down to in order to simplify such a magnitudinal event. Instead, it grew out of years of political resentment, economic crises, one on top of the other, aggressive leadership stressing nationalistic pride based on ethnic and cultural identity, and failed diplomacy during the years between the two world wars. For us to truly understand what caused World War II, it's important for us to first take a trip back about 20 some odd years to the end of World War I. After the end of the First World War in 1918, the victorious Allied nations met in 1919 to decide the future of Europe and the conquered world. Their decisions became known as the Treaty of Versailles, a treaty that, for lack of a detailed explanation here, placed the blame entirely on the nation of Germany for its role in the war and placed heavy restrictions on the country. He was forced to pay massive financial reparations to the victorious nations, reparations which quickly plunged them into a horrific economic depression. Its military was drastically limited, and it was forbidden from having a large army, air force, or modern weapons such as the rest of the now industrialized world. The region known as the Rhineland was demilitarized, meaning that German troops were not allowed there. Germany also lost colonies and about 12% of its entire territory to other newly made nations and their populations. Germany was even forbidden from uniting with their neighbor, Austria. These harsh conditions created deep resentment among many Germans. Many believed that their country had been unfairly blamed and humiliated. This feeling of anger and desire for revenge would become an important factor in the events that led to the next World War. In the 1920s, Germany was governed by the Weimar Republic, a democratic government that struggled with economic problems, political instability, and public dissatisfaction with the status quo mentality of the former First World Power. Now, in both an economic and social plunder, many Germans lost faith in democracy and began supporting fringe and radical political movements. Political leaders who gained support during this period was Adolf Hitler, the leader of the Nazi Party. Hitler promised to restore Germany's economy to a roaring status, grow their military strength, overturn the Treaty of Versailles, and expand German territory. In 1933, Hitler and the Nazi Party came to power and quickly transformed Germany into a totalitarian dictatorship. The Nazi government promoted extreme nationalism, racism, and even anti-Semitism as a means to promote a truly German nation. You see, Hitler, and by extent Germany as a whole, believed that Germans were part of a superior race and that Germany needed more land in order for this race to survive. He called this expansion Lebensraum, or living space, particularly in Eastern Europe. Hitler's government also strongly opposed Bolshevism, the communist ideology that ruled the Soviet Union, opting instead for Nazi socialism, which promoted a pro-German effort economically. This ideological hatred would later influence Germany's decisions during the war. The global situation worsened during the 1930s with the Great Depression. This worldwide economic collapse caused massive unemployment and suffering, particularly in Asia. Many people lost faith in their democratic governments that seemed unable to solve the crisis. Instead, opting for radical authoritarians like Mao in China and a militarized Japanese empire. As a result of the global depression, several countries turned to authoritarian leaders who promised stability and national strength. In Italy, Benito Mussolini had already established a fascist dictatorship. In Asia, militarists gained control of the government of Japan, which began expanding aggressively into neighboring territories. These aggressive governments increasingly challenged the international system created after World War I. Several conflicts during the 1930s showed that the international community was unable to stop aggressive nations. In 1931, Japan invaded Manchuria and later began the Second Sino-Japanese War against China in 1937. At the same time, Italy invaded Ethiopia, starting the Second Italo-Ethiopian War. Another major conflict that erupted in Europe was called the Spanish Civil War, where fascist and nationalistic forces fought against Republican forces. The international organization meant to maintain peace, the League of Nations, proved unable to stop these conflicts. Its lack of power encouraged aggressive nations to continue expanding. As Hitler continued to demand more territory, European powers attempted to avoid another war through a policy known as appeasement. This meant allowing Germany to make certain territorial changes in hopes that would satisfy Hitler and Germany's ambitions. In 1938, Britain and France agreed to the Munich Agreement, which allowed Germany to annex the Sudetenland, a region of Czechoslovakia with many German-speaking residents. Now, Hitler promised that this would be his last territorial demand. However, he soon broke that promise and continued expanding. As tensions grew, nations began forming alliances in preparation for possible war. One important alliance was between France and Poland, created in 1921 to deter threats from Germany and the Soviet Union. Later, United Kingdom also promised to defend Poland if it were attacked. These alliances formed the core of what we now know as the Allied forces. The Allies initially included Britain, France, and Poland, and later expanded to include many other nations such as the Soviet Union and the United States. On the other side were the Axis powers. These included Nazi Germany, Italy, and Japan, which formalized their partnership through the Tripartite Pact in 1940. These countries shared aggressive expansionist goals and opposed the Allied nations and their goals. In 1939, the world was shocked when Germany and the Soviet Union signed the Molotov Ribbentrop pact. This was a non-aggression agreement between the two countries that had previously been ideological enemies. The pact also included a secret protocol dividing Eastern Europe into spheres of influence. According to the agreement, both powers would divide territories such as Poland and the Baltic states between them. This agreement allowed Hitler to attack Poland without worrying about a Soviet attack from the east. On September 1st, 1939, Germany launched the invasion of Poland. German forces used fast-moving attacks involving tanks, aircraft, and infantry called the Blitzkrieg to overwhelm Polish defenses. Poland, however, was at a disadvantage. Its military had not even fully mobilized, and Germany had superior equipment and coordination. Following the agreements that they had made with Poland, Britain and France declared war on Germany on September 3rd of 1939. However, their military response was limited to a small operation called Saar Offensive, which did little to help Poland. September 17th, the Soviet Union invaded Poland from the east, carrying out their part of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. With enemies attacking from both sides, Poland was defeated within weeks. This event officially began World War II in Europe. In 1941, Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, a massive invasion of the Soviet Union. Hitler believed that the Soviet Union could be defeated quickly and that Britain would then be forced to negotiate peace. Meanwhile, Japan continued expanding across Asia. The United States had been supporting China in its war against Japan and opposed Japanese expansion. When the United States and its allies cut off all oil supplies to Japan, tensions grew rapidly. On December 7th, 1941, Japan attacked the American naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. At the same time, Japanese forces attacked several other territories, including the Philippines, Singapore, and Hong Kong. The next day, the United States declared war on Japan. Soon afterwards, Germany and Italy declared war on the United States, bringing America fully into the global conflict.